All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the star of the show with us. Chris is in the house, guys. He's missed a month, and it looks like he's been training to go to UFC Fight Island, and he looks fantastic. What's up there, Burly man?
What's happening? Been in training. Just kidding, man. Glad to be back with you.
Come on, man. You look like Rocky right now, like you're about to run up the steps, man. It looks fantastic. You must
Well,
be
I
free.
try. I try, man. I've been preparing for this. I've been putting the blood, sweat, and tears in, and I'm excited to do a little debate tonight. Coming at you live. A lot of hot topics. So, what better place to be than on the John and Chris show?
Yeah, we might have some hot takes tonight. That's what I'm kind of hoping.
Yeah,
So,
man.
all right. So we had kind of a game plan coming into today, tonight, what we were going to talk about, what was going to be going on, and then of course the big news of the day happens. Okay,
Mm.
so yesterday, I shouldn't say just yesterday. This whole season, we've seen the Doughboy in Houston. That is James Harden, who showed up completely unprepared for the season, completely out of shape, and spending way too much time in the strip clubs and spending all kinds of money traveling everywhere. He shows up unprepared, unwilling, whatever you want for the season, just did not give a rip. And you could tell it last night in that game, the way he was acting, the way he talked afterwards, just said that there was no fixing it. Did you hear John Wall's comment afterwards talking about it's been 9 games, bro? You're going to jump ship now. It's been 9 games.
Well,
I
even
mean,
more than that, I mean, John Wall came out and just said point blank, some of us in the locker room are here to win and care, and I think the stats said it all. I mean, I think he was averaging less than 20 points the last 4 games. The Rockets, since he came back, have done worse than when he was out of the lineup. They did better without him.
well, that's the truth. So he showed his tail so much. I mean, literally quit on his team so hard, they traded him. God bless that GM down there in Houston. I don't even know his name. We're going to have to look that up at some point. But somebody in Houston needs to give that guy a medal because he was able to turn this awful situation into a possible haul. I mean, did you see the details of this trade?
I did, and let's just say this: Anthony Davis, which is far superior to
Oh,
James
far
Harden,
superior.
didn't even get, in New Orleans, the haul that they got in Houston. So shout out to them.
Truth.
Thank God for friendships, Harden, because that's what saved your tail.
Exactly.
Was a friendship to KD and the Brooklyn Nets, not New Jersey, the Brooklyn Nets,
Good job.
trying to save that KD blowing up ship up there to, second year before year contract. Who knows what's going on with Kyrie? But man,
Oh,
friendship saved that big time.
we're gonna have to come back to Kyrie here in a minute, but let's talk about the details of this trade. So obviously, Brooklyn gets James Harden. All right, so then Brooklyn ships out Karis LeVert. I don't even know how to actually describe. Let me stop it there because I can't even tell you how many picks or who's coming from
Ooh,
where. It's quite ridiculous. So let's
yeah.
just put it this way: Nets get James Harden. The Pacers got Karis LeVert in a second rounder. Shout out to them. That's a pretty good haul. That's a pretty good one. The Cavs get Jared Allen and Torian Prince. Allen maybe a piece, but where does he play? He's behind Andre Drummond.
Yeah, I was
He's
surprised by that. I really
you
was
know
for
he's
Cleveland.
behind
Yeah.
Kevin Love. So I don't understand that piece too much unless they were just trying to get off Dante Exum. So the Rockets, here we go. This is the part that everybody's going to be paying attention to. The Rockets get Victor Oladipo in the last year of his deal.
Hmm.
Okay, they have Dante Exum. I don't even know the other dude's name. Kurix. I have no idea who that is. I'm not. I wish I could say I knew who that is, but I'm not that much of an NBA insider. Then we get to the real part here. Okay, they got 3 Brooklyn first round picks, 1 Milwaukee first round picks, and then 4 Brooklyn first round swaps. That's what I saw. Rich Eisen, if you know anything about football, Rich Eisen has his own show on NFL TV. He had a great tweet this evening. He said that he was reading all the stuff from this trade, and what he saw was basically that LeBron James' son will be in the Hall of Fame before Brooklyn has another first round pick. I thought that was a great tweet for that one. So, and I think that by far, what you said a few minutes ago is so true. That the only reason this trade was able to occur, the only way that this happens, is because KD lobbied so hard to get James Harden. Now, I'm trying to figure out, is this a win or is this a loss for Brooklyn? Because personally, I've been very adamant about this on the show. I think James Harden is not a good player. I think he is I think he's this generation's Carmelo Anthony. He can score all you want, but he does not help you win it all. Now,
He's a liability on defense. Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, but if anything, this year has shown I mean, if any of the reports that have been put out there about him being late to practices, being late to video sessions, to the point where one of his best friends didn't want to be around him anymore, what does that say when Russell Westbrook, who's one of your best friends, no longer wants to work with you? I mean, seriously, what does that say about you? He's late. He's all the time just taking days off, pulling a Dennis Rodman. He watched The Last Dance and saw that, hey, I can go to Vegas in the middle of the season and go to the strip clubs and go do all kinds of stuff. Just send a pulling Allen Iverson and just constantly getting helicopters and planes, taking him wherever he wants to go, spending all that money. Look, if I had $35-40 million a year, I might be having fun with it too. But you can't do that during the season, during travel, all this kind of stuff. I think it's a little much. So I don't know, man. I'm looking at the who got what in this trade. I know the Pacers got off of Oladipo, which I don't think that was a huge thing, but the fact that they got something for him in the last year of his contract, so they didn't lose everything, I think that was a good win for the Pacers. Uh, Levert, if he can stay healthy, he's an amazing player, and they get a second rounder. But I don't know about this one. I have no idea why the Cavs even got involved. There must have been a money thing somewhere. That's the only reason I can see that they got involved. They were trying to unload a contract. But I just, man, I'm struggling with this one. Okay, so here's the question. Okay, is the James Harden trade enough to get Kyrie back? Okay, so those of you who have not been paying attention, Kyrie quit. Okay, can we just put it out there? So we're having this conversation that James Harden quit on the Rockets. Well, Kyrie quit on the NBA, I guess. I don't even know how to explain this. So they have a game last week that they're supposed to be playing, and KD is coming off of injury, so they've been trying to get him healthy to where he's not playing back to backs. I mean, he literally just got out of quarantine because he was in contact with somebody, contact tracing. But then we have Kyrie who just decides, you know what? He literally said, I don't feel like playing. And so he hasn't played. He's disappeared. Supposedly he went to a party for his sister where nobody's wearing masks, and I'm not even going to get into that part of it all. I don't care about that part as much as everybody's screaming about it. But then he's on a Zoom call the other day, 30 minutes before they're supposed to be on a game. He's on a Zoom call basically about social justice, social reform, where they're trying to get some lady in Brooklyn or somewhere elected, and they're doing all they can for that stuff. Now, here's the point that we're getting to. He has made a statement. He made a statement in front of all the players in the NBA when they had that phone call. And he said flat out, I'm willing to give it all up for social reform, social justice. Is that where he is now?
I'll be first, honestly. I don't think so. I think what we're seeing here is a problem that we see. It's an NBA culture thing, and you you and I we debated on this for a long time. I told you with the whole Russell Westbrook thing that Russell Westbrook was not the problem out in Houston. At some point, we have to, lack of a better word, we're too scared to step on toes of superstars. Superstars don't do what James Harden did if GMs don't cater to them. And I mean, kudos to Houston. I mean, they got a boatload and above a boatload, and they got an A+ in this deal, big time. Culture for the locker room is going to change. John Wall coming in is back to his injury days, doing a fantastic job. Wood out there is having all-star numbers. I mean, they're doing some amazing things out there, and then so they're going to move that. But these superstars are given so much leeway and power that they're able to do things like this. You're able to quit on a game and say, even though you signed a contract and you've got GMs and people trying to behind the scenes build these mega teams and work within contracts and the salary cap and all that stuff, and your star player goes out and says, I'm out. Like, what kind of crap is that? I mean, you're letting
Right.
all the guys down. And I
Absolutely.
think that we just are catering to the NBA culture. And I think we saw that in the bubble. We saw people back off of the whole social justice thing, right or wrong. That's not what we're here to debate. What they were doing. NBA made some changes this season. Kyrie has always been a moody individual. When things didn't go his way in
Truth.
Cleveland, he wants out. He wants to go to Boston. He gets to Boston, and man, the freshman guys were like overshadowing Kyrie up there. He gets mad. Get me out of here. Lobbies to go to Brooklyn. And the same thing that he was debating and complaining about, that he didn't want to be in the shadow of LeBron James. And that, remember, let's not forget the comment he made this year or late last year, that we want the ball in Kyrie's hands, not LeBron's, at the end of the games.
Oh, where he was saying that finally this is the first teammate he's ever had that he trusts to take the last shot with
Yeah.
Kevin Durant. Yeah,
So then he
it
goes to
was
Brooklyn.
that was a thinly veiled shot at
Yeah,
LeBron. Yeah,
and LeBron, kudos to him for standing up. But then he goes to Brooklyn, and the same scenario that he wanted out of in Cleveland, wanted out of in Boston, he's now in again.
but see, he
And
put
so I
himself in
just
that situation. That's what
he
cracks me
did.
up.
Right, and that's Kyrie for you. And when Duke fan or not, Kyrie is a great ball handler, man. He is good when he is on, but he is a moody individual, and these superstars get catered to. And so when they get catered to, they feel the freedom that they don't have to show up and work. I mean, that's the culture we're a part of. It's the NBA culture.
Right.
It's been that way for a while. And you got guys like LeBron James that are 37 years old, about to be 38 this season.
I
And
think
man,
he's
he's
36,
yeah,
about
or
turn
about
37.
37, putting in the work.
That's right.
And,
Because he,
and regardless if he agrees or disagrees, he's putting in the work, because the time that you have in the NBA, in pro sports, is a blessing. And you need to be a steward of that, because it can be all gone tomorrow. And I know, do I think it puts Brooklyn over the hump? I think if Kyrie comes back, I know their odds jump to be only behind LA right now, the Lakers. But then again, you got three ball handlers out there, three dominant guards. Somebody's going to get mad after half a season.
that was on Twitter going around right now is who's going to be Chris Bosh, as in who's going to take the step back. Um, I think it's got to be James.
I agree. I don't think James will do it, but I think it's got to be James.
I
It's
think
not KD.
I think KD's. Or so just to use the example of the big three in Miami, I think KD's LeBron. I do. I
Yeah,
think that
he's your
Kyrie.
he's your natural shooter. Yep.
I think Kyrie's probably your Wade, so to
Wait,
speak,
wait. Yep.
because he's got to bring the ball up. So Harden can bring the ball up. Don't get me wrong, but if Harden can become more of a spot up, I mean, he can shoot the three. With that, he could probably shoot the three better than the rest of them.
After taking two steps, yeah. I mean, we
Well,
we redesigned the rules for James
but it's
Harden.
not a travel anymore thanks to him.
Used to be
Uh,
5, 10 years. There's guys like Jordan and Pippen and Rodman and all these greats that are going, what? If that
yeah.
was around, we what I'm saying. I mean, come on now, you know.
So, does this compare at all to? Well, no, it doesn't even compare. This is better than the roster that Steve Kerr inherited when Mark
I agree. I'm
Jackson was
going to tell
fired.
you. I tell you what nobody's talking about. You ready for this?
Probably not, but
Notice
okay.
that everybody's jumping ship on the West. Everybody is going to the East. For years, the West was the dominant one, and
Well,
it was
you know why?
because of AD and LeBron. And
And
so now,
Kawhi, yeah.
right, yeah. So now here's the problem. Do we have more of an even spread happening right now? Yeah, I think we do. I think what you're seeing the 76ers have a strong year. They're probably out there with Doc Rivers having a great year. Between them and the Nets now, the Heat have fallen off quite a bit. So they were probably your top three teams out there in the East. Besides Milwaukee. Milwaukee's not having the best starts. They'll come back around. We get all that. Out in the West, you've got the Clippers, you've got the Lakers, and the third probably the Trailblazers. Who can win on any given night.
Yeah, you get. I mean, in the West behind. Well, if you actually look at the standings, Phoenix is actually having a really good year. They're right there near the top as far as pushing the Lakers for that. I'm trying to pull up standings right now, but they were right there at the top pushing.
Yeah, I think they're second right now.
Yeah. So in the West, Lakers are at 9-3. Then you see Utah, the Clippers, and Phoenix all tied at 7-4, followed by the Blazers, Mavericks, the Warriors, and the Spurs are all in the playoffs. Everybody else is about a game and a half back. The East, you've got Boston, basically tied, which is weird. They're basically tied with Philly, even though they're Boston 7-3, Philly's 8-4, then Milwaukee, Pacers, Magic. Hey, my Hornets are actually there for a moment.
Yep. Yeah, they're on that
Brooklyn,
eighth bubble spot. Yeah.
Brooklyn. Well, no, they're actually six at the moment. Brooklyn is at 7 right now because they're 6-6, and then followed by Atlanta, and then just a bunch of other people that can work their way back in. Like Miami's probably the 10th seed right now, but they're not that far back. They're 2.5 games from the number one seed. I mean, so we're still so early in the season that anything can happen. An injury occurs or anything like that, and these teams are back in it. But I mean, I could definitely see what you're saying, that there's developing more parity in the NBA, which is not a bad thing. I mean, that's kind of exciting now, where it's if because 2-3 years ago, if the Warriors were on, you knew it was a dub. You knew the Warriors were just gonna walk away with whatever that is. That's kind
Yeah.
of,
Then KD decided to jump out there for a year or
well,
two.
even
Yeah.
before. I mean, even while
Yeah.
he was there, they were unstoppable. And then he
Oh
was there
yeah.
for two
Yeah.
years, won two
Yeah.
rings, or he was there for 3 years. They won two rings with him. Yeah, right. Yes, they won one before him, two with him,
Mm-hmm.
and then they lost one with him as well when his Achilles or whatever, that, which is awful injury.
Yeah.
And then you see people like the Raptors have fallen off hard. I mean, they went from winning it all to competing and then gone.
Who is your who's your next domino to fall? As far as big trade pieces. I mean, I have an idea what I think, and I think I'll go ahead and tell you. I think Bradley Beal is the next move. He's not said he wants out. I think it all comes down to whether Philly seems to be the landing spot. Miami may be the sleeper there now that Brooklyn has gone after Harden. But will Philadelphia part with Ben Simmons? It's hard because right now Ben Simmons is playing great ball, probably his best year yet. Philadelphia is out. Number one, do you bring in a Bradley Beal swap? Because Washington's not going to make the move. But Bradley, Russell
Well,
Westbrook is miserable right now out there in Washington. He just cannot seem to.
they can't move Russ.
Yeah, yeah.
They,
He's
they,
got too
they
big of a
can't.
contract. Yeah.
There's no way. Like Houston did good to get John Wall, and I
Mhm.
understood the situation how they were able to get him because John Wall hadn't played in practically 2 years. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they can do anything to actually move him. So Washington is sitting at 3-8. They're having a
Mhm.
miserable year. I mean, that's
Yeah.
without question. Um,
But Beal is having a great year.
Beal has had several good years where I mean,
Yeah.
obviously he's the only bright spot in Washington. They don't have a good team around him, and I understand why they traded for us. They just had to swing for it, hope it worked, and it appears it probably isn't going to. I
Yeah, I
could
heard one
see it.
one guy said, "Hey, if you're out there, you wish you were going to do that trade, but you can't."
Yeah, I, I
Yeah,
don't I I don't know. I don't know if there is another big trade that happens this season because the two malcontents that were out there were basically Kyrie and Harden. Anybody else, I don't think it's going to be nearly as big of a trade. So I don't think it'll be talked about as much if there is another one. Obviously somewhere along the way, some veteran is going to get cut. He's going to get waived because he's in the last year of his deal, and the NBA is going to do something to save some money. And then somebody like in LA or the Lakers or somebody's going to swoop up somebody as usual. They did that last year with Markieff Morris. I mean, that's
Clippers are
just,
notorious for that too. Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, if you're in competition for the championship, that's just what happens. A guy towards the end of the season asks for a buyout, and the team figures out a way to get out cheaper than what they really would give him, and they cut him.
yeah.
And that's usually the way it works. But I can't see anybody else doing that. So that, and speaking of what you said though, the conversation was Daryl Morey was trying really really hard to get Harden. Apparently the conversations of a Harden Ben Simmons trade stalled. So here's my question: was that a swing and a miss by Morey and the Philadelphia 76ers trading Simmons and Harden? Or was that them dodging a bullet not to get Harden into that locker room?
I think pre last night's conversation, you were thinking it was a swing and a miss.
Mhm.
After Harden coming out and saying what he said last night, you're going, "Thank you, Lord. We're going
Right,
to call it a season, and we're doing good." And I
right,
think that was the thing. I mean, you and I had talked about this, kind of back and forth. I mean, we had a different conversation going into that until that trade went through,
right.
and I was like, and I was going to tell you, to say it like this: Harden is the problem. That's why he hasn't been traded yet. GMs, these guys that are recruiting, all these guys, they know something about Harden that the rest of us don't know. And as we've said, Harden is the problem. I think going to Brooklyn, Harden is still the problem. I think
Well,
there's no
no,
way
Brooklyn
around it.
has two problems.
Yeah, because they got Kyrie and Harden. You
Yeah.
got a freshman coach who we have nothing but high respect for, and I think that the first one to go is not going to be one of those three players. It's going to be Steve Nash, and I hate that for Steve Nash. I
Oh,
would
without
have loved
question.
to have seen Doc Rivers coach these three.
Yeah, could he have managed their
I
personalities?
think
Yeah,
Doc
absolutely.
Rivers
Yeah.
could have done that, and I would
I
have
could I
loved to have
could
seen
see
it.
Doc doing that. He did
Yeah,
that. I mean, he did that when he brought in KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen.
I
Now,
would love to
granted,
see
I don't.
Doc. Yeah,
KG had he had a swagger to him and he had an attitude and stuff like that. But his was different. He was a hard worker. He was the type of guy that would do anything to win and stuff like that. And Ray Allen was just a hard worker that wanted to win. Paul Pierce was the one to me that I'm not a Paul Pierce guy. Never have been a Paul Pierce guy. And so,
yeah. Well, let's do this before we trade this. Let's grade the trade.
ooh,
We got our
great.
opinions on this.
Are you
Let's
grading
grade the
it
trade.
per team?
Yeah, I think we grade it per team. And
Per
let's go
team.
ahead and say
Okay. All
hands.
right.
Let's start with the Rockets.
The Rockets. Personally, I give them an A plus.
I give them an A and 15 pluses.
15 pluses. Okay. So you figured out a way to jump an A plus. Well done, sir. You have to get 4 first round picks, a hard working player in Oladipo, Dante Exum, that's just absorbing a contract, and then
The
four first
entire
round.
Houston Rocket team tonight, if they're not playing, which I don't believe they are, is in a party right now with 14 people with mask off, partying right now,
Then,
saying,
then they'll
"Let's
get
do
quarantined
this."
for 2 weeks.
Yes, yes.
All right, so was the Cavs. The Cavs get Jared Allen and Torian Prince. Um, I'm I'm gonna say a D.
I'm going to go with C because I agree with you. The whole Jared Allen just doesn't fit to me. If the Cavs
I
are
don't
looking,
understand.
I know Love's been talked for a while, but I agree. I'm going to C.
I'm only giving him a D because I don't know when and where he's going to be able to play.
Mhm.
Like I said, that had to be a salary dump of some sort. I don't get it. The Pacers get Karis LeVert and a second rounder by giving up Oladipo. I'm gonna give him a B plus on that one.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I hate it for Dante Sabonis, or yeah, Sabonis up there having a great year, but Karis LeVert, man, I'm glad for him. He's getting out of Brooklyn just for his career because
Yeah.
he was the odd piece in that with the superstars.
See, I have him on my fantasy basketball team, and so I'm a little nervous how that's going to work out.
Well,
Like, does it help him
his
or hurt
numbers
him?
is about to help him.
Yeah, because he was doing really good when there was no Kyrie and KD was on the quarantine type stuff, because of
Yeah,
the tracing. So I was having like a couple good games where Levert's putting up like 60 points in fantasy. I'm like, yes.
yeah. Get ready
But so,
for it again.
and
Yeah.
here we go, the Nets getting James Harden. I I'm gonna give it a C.
Whether I like it or not, he is still a superstar. We know that. I'll say a star. I B minus. I
B
just
minus. Okay.
because it's James
I'm
Harden.
I'm
You know,
shocked that you're giving him that high of a grade. I agree that he's an NBA star, but I'm really shocked that you gave him that high. That's pretty funny. Uh,
it'll be interesting to see how Brooklyn fills out their three remaining spots. They have three open roster spots now, so it'll be interesting to
oh,
see
they're
how they
they're gonna
add.
find some veterans and
Oh, I
like
agree. I agree.
they're gonna call like Jamal Crawford's out there. Jamal Crawford will be he'll be willing to come in for next to nothing because he wants
Yep.
that ring. He's ring chasing. Look,
Yep.
because I don't
Yep.
think he got a chance to play last year, so they'll find some guys just to fill in slots. But who would they give up again? They
If you're
gave up.
listening right now, go get my man Vince Carter
Good luck getting Vince
out
because
of retirement.
Vince has got a TV career now. So they gave up Karis LeVert and Jared Allen, and
and their future.
I think that Crux guy might have been on their team. So what they gave up was a guard, a center, and I think maybe a small forward is what Crux is, I think, or whatever his name is. So those are the type of slots that they've got to fill up. Now, again, we've got positionless basketball now, so it's not a mandatory thing that they have to get those specific positions. But
Crazy thought.
oh, okay,
Did
because I was like so confused what your face
did
was doing.
Brooklyn just did what sent them cursed years ago with the Paul Pierce and KG from Boston thing. It
Yeah.
just hit me
Yeah.
because years ago they sold the farm to go
They
after two
sold it.
players
Yep.
in their old age, and they said they would never do it again,
Yep.
and they did it like times two with this trade.
Yep.
It just hit
Different
me. I'm like, whoa!
different ownership, different GM. But
And
yes,
same
they
thing.
just did that. They traded I think it was like five, I don't know, it's 3 or 4 picks at a minimum, plus a lot of young talent. They traded all of that.
Yeah.
But I remember that trade because they traded a bunch of stuff, draft picks and everything. I think Danny Ainge still has picks from that trade. But yeah, they just did the exact same thing. They have sold their souls for James Harden. Would you be cool with that? I wouldn't.
No, you and I know how I feel in this. The locker room,
Well,
I don't know about this.
yeah,
You know,
you gotta have a good culture, and
yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. We see that across every sport that you gotta have good locker room guys. Um, Speaking of a guy that is normally considered a good locker room guy, but Twitter and the media has turned on him very hard. George Hill, he made some very interesting comments. The question was posed to him by, they kind of do those interesting after game sessions where I don't think the reporters are actually there. They're just asking them questions. And the question was posed to him about the new protocols the NBA has put out, how he felt about them. Okay, so the new protocols, they are pushing that now no non-team guests can be in hotels when they're on the road. They are limiting their movement while they're on the road, as in the teams and the NBA can dictate to these guys when and where they can go now. There's no just them going to New York, traveling to New York City and going and doing whatever they want to. They're basically implying that they are going to keep these guys in the hotels, in their rooms, and away from other people. And then they're forcing masks on the bench. Okay. Now, the masks on the bench doesn't make any sense, but whatever. That's if they want to do that. I don't understand that part. If you're going to let a guy run up and down the floor for 48 minutes, running into the other guy, inches from him, breathing on him, pushing on him, but he has to wear a mask on the bench. I don't get that logic. I don't. But George Hill's comments, basically, I'm paraphrasing. What was that? I can't even talk. I'm paraphrasing what he says. I'm a grown man. I'm going to see my family if I want to see my family. If the protocols and everything are so bad, if this situation is so bad and they have to change all these protocols so much, should we even be playing? Okay. Great eye roll. I love the eye roll because I felt that. Okay. So here's the conversation. Here's the situation. We have a player who's getting paid millions of dollars, who says, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. And if you don't like it, too bad. This is also the same guy that told his team and talked his team into basically boycotting a game last year because they were upset with social justice. Okay. If that's what he feels strongly about, Kyrie's doing that right now. If that's what you feel strongly about, sure. NBA obviously feels extremely strong about following protocols right now because they're having to cancel game after game because teams can't put enough guys together because of either exposure, actually having the virus, or whatever. I mean, there have been a minimum of 4 games that have been canceled. I think the Celtics have had to cancel 3 games so far. So, what are your thoughts on an employee telling their employer, I'm a grown man and I'm going to do whatever I want to do?
Here's the slippery slope of NBA culture.
Again, we're back to this culture thing.
We are. I mean, when you allow these players to dictate, here's the problem: is that from night to night, you have owners of NBA teams who need to make money to pay the very players that hold them, basically at arm's length to say, if I feel like playing, I'll feel like playing. If I don't, I don't. And if I boycott, by the way, you're still going to pay me just because I'm boycotting.
Oh yeah,
And
because the Bucks ownership could not have fined
not
those
paid those
guys
things.
last year because
And,
they would
and,
have been
and that's the
crucified.
problem of the NBA culture because in no other arena can you sit there and tell your boss you're not going to go out and do a job. You're going to
Right.
get fired.
You're
But
going to get
because
fired
it's
on the
the
spot.
NBA, here's the thing: you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You guys already spent and did this pre-contract stuff, making sure everything was set aside because of TV rights. Make sure you extended out, the escrow accounts and all those different things. You cannot then go back and tell your boss, "I don't feel like working." If I'm an owner, and here's the problem: ownership can't do this because of the NBA culture. Here's your expectations: either show up and play, or you're fired. But the
Now,
problem
George,
is you can't do that. Do I agree with the NBA doing that? Yes. Why? Because they need revenue. They're
yeah,
losing so much money by not putting people in the stands. It's unbelievable the hundreds of millions of dollars that the NHL came out this week. NHL is going to lose billions,
mm,
not millions, billions of dollars. And that's the problem, the culture we live in. NHL, we had an 11-year veteran announcer get fired this week, or his contract was not renewed, all because he said, I like that the NHL is not going to allow women in hotels during protocols. Why? Because now the guys will be more focused.
he got fired for that.
They did not renew his contract.
What?
He said he made an off the cuff statement, right or wrong. Like they did not renew his contract because of that statement.
I gotta ask what they're upset about is because he's blaming. Are they feminists upset that he's blaming women? I don't.
Censorship and what we live in today
Oh,
is
well,
that you
that's
have to be careful what you say, who it's going to offend, because if you offend the wrong group, you're in trouble. And so we see a guy like George Hill come out, which I hated because I'm a George Hill fan. I voted for him to be the sixth man of the year this year. That's who I put out there to be my sixth man of the year. And that it's out there. That's who I was hoping would come out and do this. They are your boss, whether you like it or not. 3 to 6 months, you're making millions of dollars.
okay. So this the statement constantly on Twitter and other places is, "Hey George, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Don't be stupid." That type of stuff. What do you think about that? Okay, I'll put it like this. I've not been shy about it. I caught the virus. I had to deal with it. I had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and it took me full 3 weeks to get fully healed up, get my energy back, get everything ready to go to where I'm not feeling like I got a cough at all times. It's not a fun thing, but I'll be honest with you. I followed protocols. I did everything I was supposed to do, and I still managed to get this. So at some point, I don't. You can't just wish this thing away, and you can't just expect guys to do what they did in the bubble outside of the bubble. That, I mean, there's just no way. These people have to live. I mean,
But
they
you
just
have to
have
make
to.
but NBA is not asking not to live. All they're saying is when we're on the road, we need to quarantine because they don't want to shut the season down. If
Oh
you
yeah,
want
because
to
they're
get
losing money like crazy.
but as a player, if you want to get paid, then you follow the protocols. We're
That's
not
what I
talking
don't
the entire
understand.
year.
Consider how much money he's making. He's making millions,
Exactly. There's a
millions.
lot of people that would step up in line and say, George Hill, you don't want to do it. I'll take your spot on the roster and I'll go make millions of dollars and I'll follow protocol. That's the
Okay,
whole thing I understand here. They're not saying you can't see your family. They're
okay.
saying that
Now
when
I
we're
read it.
on the road, you know,
That's how I read it. Now, if I read it wrong, somebody please write in or call us. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean, if I'm
yeah, I got
wrong,
you. What's up? Yeah, yeah.
if I missed some protocol that they changed, let me know because you're right. It does seem like it's only implying on the road. Now, granted, sometimes these guys are on road trips that last up to 3 weeks. I mean, there was the Spurs used to call it the rodeo, where they would be on the road for almost 3 weeks, where they're constantly out there traveling from here to there, and then they'd come home. There was like they refer to it as the rodeo trip. Not seeing your family for 3 weeks, that would suck. I'm not going to argue with that. If George misses his family and wishes he could see his wife or his kids, I fully respect that. But 3 weeks for getting millions of dollars. I mean, millions. I think they could understand for a little bit. Maybe it's just I'm saying it as a broke person. Maybe that's why I'm like, bro,
If
I
the
could.
Lakers can do it in the bubble for 3 months before they see their family, and then the
Yeah,
coaches couldn't see them until after because the players' outrage,
that was
come
stupid.
on now, seriously. And I think here's the reality is George Hill, you're not LeBron James, you're not KD, you're a support guy.
Truth.
You know what I'm saying? Here's the reality. George Hill, if you want to gripe and complain, go get mad at James Harden and Kyrie Irving for going to parties and strip clubs because
That's
the NBA had to do something because their stars were not listening. It was the most expensive strip joint that James Harden had ever been to because when it was all said and done, he got fined $50,000, right? And I think just for going to the thing.
right.
So the whole thing is NBA has to do something. They have to show, each state that they're doing all these protocols, that they're doing the best that they can to protect their people, to protect their investment. That whether you like it or not, then that's the job.
Yeah. Speaking of following protocols and doing the best thing they can, have you did And this is something I just saw over the weekend, and I'm way late to the game, and I apologize. Did you see where the Raptors are playing home games?
Yes, in Tampa. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's been for a while. They were touring a couple of cities trying to figure out where they were going to go, and some have said that's why they're not doing well because they're stuck down in Tampa, and that's why they're having a bad season.
I mean, it makes
And yeah,
sense.
yeah, I was really surprised they picked Tampa out of all the places they were looking at. They chose
Well,
Tampa.
I think
Yeah,
they had to find something with a combination of arena and setup for players and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I just honestly I was having a conversation with my brother in law Saturday, and he was mentioning about how the Raptors weren't playing in Toronto because Canada. If you if you go from Canada or from the U.S. to Canada, you have to quarantine for 14 days,
yeah,
and Canada
mandatory.
was not willing to give waivers to NBA guys to do this. And I was honestly, I was dumbfounded because it just I hadn't thought about it. I mean, they're the only team that's not quite, not in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I had not considered that whatsoever. But I thought that was crazy the other day that
Well,
these
there is
guys.
there's a second team now too. That's not quite the U.S.
What team?
Brooklyn.
That's-
Like, what kind of
what?
what kind of trade was that? I mean, come on now.
They're out of this world.
Yeah.
No, you had me on that because I was like, "What the heck are you talking about?" There's another team, not in the U.S.
Yeah.
Hey, man, one day, all these sports are probably going to be international, but I'm glad to see it's not today. Hey, so let's go ahead and change gears. We've covered about everything that there is to cover right now in the NBA, aside from the fact that LeBron is now taking 3-pointers and turning his back on them because that's how confident he is. But hey, let's change gears a little bit. Let's go do some NFL, most popular sport in the country, arguably one of the most popular sports in the world because I think it's the real football, and all you soccer fans can suck it. Okay, so here we go. I love how you're shaking your head at that one. All right, so the big news in the NFL, Doug Peterson, who was thought to have survived Black Monday, was fired on Black Wednesday, I guess. I don't know. He made it 2 extra days. So the conversation, this is all stemming from the fact. Now, granted, this is a man who won the Super Bowl in 2017, beat my Patriots, still
Coach
mad
of the
about.
year 2018?
I think it was
Nope,
7th.
nope, nope. That was the Bears coach, Matt Nagy. My fault. My fault.
Yeah. So he he wins it all that year. Stupid Philly special. Supposedly he's tired of being told what to do. In the final game, he benches Jalen Hurts, who's doing a pretty decent job, has a chance to possibly take the team down there for a chance to win, and puts in Nate Sudfeld to give him meaningful reps. Doesn't make any sense, but hey, it is what it is. That's what he did. He's out the door. So here's the situation we have in Philly. Okay. They're going to bring in a new coach. I heard Joe Brady is getting some serious conversations. So hey, he might be a guy to revive things. But here's the situation we have. Before I go any further, do you know who they're calling that they really want? Lincoln Riley. Why do they want Lincoln Riley? Well, who's the quarterback at the end of the season? Jalen Hurts. Who was Jalen Hurts' last coach in college? Lincoln Riley, who helped him to do some pretty impressive things. He did better with Oklahoma than he did with Alabama as far as his stats went. He definitely won more with Alabama. But here's the situation we have. We have the over $100 million man, that is Carson Wentz, who lost his job to the second rounder, Jalen Hurts. Now, coach is gone, who Wentz hated, had lost all respect for. Peterson had pretty much started to lose the locker room. What is the situation now? Is Wentz, who's your multi million dollar man, is he now going to be the starter once again? Or is Hurts going to be the starter and you're trying to move off of Wentz, which if they trade Wentz, it's something like $60 million, like dead money to the cap. So he's basically untradeable. So you've got to keep him. But Hurts just showed how good he is. Do you now use him as trade bait or do you keep him?
Let's go ahead and say this.
Okay.
If you don't win in the East this year, you're fired. All of you. Like, I mean, unless you're Ron Rivera. Like, I'm just saying, that
He
was the
he
that
he
was the
he
worst.
technically won the East. That's how he kept his job. He
Yeah.
technically won the East with three different quarterbacks.
But let's keep in mind why Jalen Hurts was even in there was because Carson Wentz failed miserably, and
He
I think
did.
that Doug, I think the coach gave him as many possibilities as he could, and let's not forget that Nick Foles pretty much saved. I think we all were shocked when Nick Foles got the big contract outside of Philadelphia because when Carson went down, it was Nick Foles who saved Philly's season
Yep.
and the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And so there was that Foles magic. And I think a lot of people really
Fool's
began to
magic.
see, fool's gold, whatever you want to say out there.
Fool's gold. I love
Fool's
it.
gold. Yeah, that's the caption of the day right there. Hashtag that one. But I thought then they should have got rid of Wentz and kept Foles just because you saw consistency. You saw what happened. They went out, they signed into this massive deal, and then here you are. You got this coach up there, and I think that I think Carson had a frustrating season, but he's also had other frustrating seasons. We all were shocked when he got that mega contract last year because he hadn't earned it. And I think
it wasn't that long ago.
I think he was best of the pool that was available at the time.
Well, all right. So when he got drafted, um, he got drafted right after Jared Goff went first. Carson Wentz went second. Okay, so Wentz, I think it was his second year that he was almost an MVP before he got hurt, like blew out his knee, where he took that hit,
Nasty play,
blew out his knee. That was the year the Foles did pretty good. I think that was the year that they won it all because Foles carried them through. And then Wentz definitely felt it, the fact that Foles won that championship. And I think he was compensating and he was trying too hard. And the weapons around them from their championship year to now have really declined. Their whole team. They have an awful cap situation. Their roster's aging really badly.
They got no wide receivers, no running back.
No wide receivers. They could have had Justin Jefferson instead. They take Jalen Rieger, and that did not work out well.
Yeah.
So they're struggling as far as that goes. Okay, so they don't have a ton of talent on offense. Everybody's getting older on their team, and Wentz was definitely forcing the ball. He wasn't making good decisions. Hurts comes in there playing with house money. He plays well. I mean, he plays with a young guy with a little swagger. He's running, he's throwing. I mean, he's doing really well for a guy that used him at the end of the season to make it to the fantasy championship. I really appreciate how well Hurts played. I wish he could have stayed in that last game because I might have won that stupid championship, but no. Okay, so that different league than ours, but I think that there's no possible way they can financially get rid of Carson Wentz. So that means, in my thought, that you have to bring in somebody that can utilize Carson Wentz the best they can. I think that'll be a factor as into who they hire. And I think you gotta move Hurts, cash in and move him. Who do you move him to? I don't know, but there's always a team that's hungry for a quarterback, especially one that can do what Hurts can do, which is both run and pass, because that's becoming a very important thing in this NFL. So I think they got to keep Wentz.
I think though, here's the interesting part. I don't think this has been the first year in a long time this offseason where there's going to be a quarterback carousel. And I think we're going to see that. I mean, you've got Teddy Bridgewater out of Carolina, did not do well. Carson Newton, or not Cam Newton,
Carson Newton.
Cam Newton experiment did not do so well. Besides that last game of the season, we saw a little bit of Cam magic. Not that last game.
There ain't no Cam magic.
Yeah, whatever it is you want to call that. Yeah, well, the Jets are the Jets. You got the Sam Darnold situation up there. You've got what are the 49ers going to do out there? Surprisingly, is Philip Rivers, the Colts going to renew Philip Rivers? He had a 1-year deal. What's going to happen there?
Is it on the Colts or is it on Rivers to say whether he wants to stay?
But even Minnesota, I'm even going to go as far as to say this. Kirk Cousins, I think had a down year compared to what he had to last year. And then you got the Deshaun Watson situation, down in Houston. To me, an easy flip is this: Carson for Deshaun.
There's no way Houston takes that trade.
Oh, I agree. But when you look at the contracts and you look at what's happening, both almost need a fresh start in a fresh system. And that's what I'm curious about.
Okay, so you're saying coaching carousel, I mean, not coaching, but quarterback carousel is going to happen because we've got a lot of guys that are going to be on the move. Okay, so guys you mentioned earlier, Mitch Trubisky could be on his
Mitch. Yeah, could
be on his way out of. I mean, we could go down the list. There's almost
Matt Stafford at Detroit. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's only a few guys that have guaranteed jobs. Now, Teddy Bridgewater, you mentioned him. He signed a 3-year, $60 million contract. I don't think there's a ton of guarantees signed with his contract, so I think they could probably get out of it. But being where Carolina's picking, which is like it's pretty early, it's like 5 or something like that. That's where they're picking. They're probably going to try to draft somebody rather than bring in somebody else. I think that Bridgewater, from the moment he was signed, was only a gap, like a bridging the gap quarterback. I don't think that he was ever the guy for long term. I think they were just trying to bring in a guy to do something to be competitive. Did it work out? Not really, because his best player was hurt all year with Christian McCaffrey. Okay, so they went into it with one arm tied behind their back. Matt Stafford needs a fresh start up there in Detroit. He needs it. He's been there for over 12 years, and Detroit has failed him horribly. Did you see that freaking no look pass that he had? Oh my gosh, you need to go back and find that. If I can send, I'll send it to you later. But that no look pass that he threw was 1,000 times better than what Patrick Mahomes did. He threw it to where the guy was not at and threw it perfectly. And he's been doing that all along. I think Matt Stafford,
He's
if
a heck of a quarterback. I'd love to see him in a new system.
oh, I would love to see
I
him.
would
I'd
love to
love to
see
see him
him
get
go to
on a
New England.
contender.
Like I'd love to see him go to New England, and
Yes.
I think he would do well in Philadelphia, and I think he
Yes.
would do well as a 49er.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't see him in the Bears uniform.
No.
I don't see him going to the Vikings because of divisional rivalries. I don't see
Well,
that
he could pull a
happening.
Brett Favre and do it.
He could. I mean, I would love to see him because he has been faithful to Detroit. I love to see him get a shot
Well,
somewhere else.
he's a fantastic guy from all
He's a great
accounts.
teammate.
He's a
Yeah,
great teammate. He
we know
plays
we're in the
he
locker room. We know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. He plays through he showed at the end of the year he's willing to play through injuries for all his guys, and I mean he was something else. Another guy, Taylor Heineke, played
Hmm.
really well for that one game that he played for the Redskins. Do the Redskins try to bring him back on a marginal contract to see if he could be, that Bridgewater type guy where he could be something for the future? Or I don't know, because the Redskins obviously don't have a dramatically high pick, so any strong talent is going to be gone. Their best chance might be to sign Heineke to a reasonable contract and hope they can draft a guy like Trey Lance and develop him, because Trey Lance is a guy that is a complete mystery because he only played one game this season, and he was obviously playing at a lower level, same school that Carson Wentz came out of, North Dakota. Okay, so that's just a few guys, but the big name, obviously, that you mentioned a minute ago is Deshaun Watson. Deshaun has listed and shown that he's very upset with how things are going right now in Houston. Has shown he desperately wants out because he doesn't feel like he's being listened to. So this is almost the NBA culture creeping into the NFL. He's upset because uh he was not given basically a seat at the table when it was time to talk about who the GM was going to be and who the coach was going to be. Now, there are a lot of players that I don't like, where do you get off making that statement where the owners were, but he was told he was going to have say so, and he was not talked to about before they hired Nick Caserio from the Patriots. So he was obviously upset. The guy he really wanted them to interview for the head coaching job, Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, they haven't talked to him, or excuse me, at that time they had not
Yeah,
requested an
yeah,
interview.
yeah.
They have now since done that because they're playing damage control now. They're trying to figure out how they can keep Deshaun Watson. Well, if you want to keep him, you better go ahead and just hire Bieniemy right now.
This thing was doomed from the start. Whenever they let Hopkins go,
Oh, without a doubt. When they traded
that was
Hopkins
his
for a
buddy.
second
Yeah,
rounder,
and
yeah.
you didn't tell him like
Oh
that.
yeah.
I mean, nobody like. I mean, you should have fired your coach then. And I'm not trying to creep in the NBA culture, the NFL culture, but everybody when we saw that trade happen, we were like, "What are you doing?" Like, I mean, you just that was the stupidest trade that it will go down in a long time.
Oh yeah, I don't know what he was thinking when Bill O'Brien did that. Which everything that was indicated, that was a power struggle. He didn't want to pay Hopkins. Hopkins was their best talented player, and it was just a culture thing where they didn't get along, and so Bill O'Brien got rid of him. And obviously, we see who won that trade: Arizona. Arizona's got one of the best receivers in the league now, and Bill O'Brien doesn't have a job. Period. He's got a ton of money because he got paid really good for all the years he was in Houston, but so that's just barely touching on what's going to happen this offseason with all the quarterbacks that could be on the move. I'll be honest with you, I love off seasons because you get to dream that they're building a squad and they're doing stuff. I said on the last pod that whatever it takes, Bill Belichick, get Deshaun Watson. If it takes 6 first round picks, do it. You miss on every first round pick anyway.
Drive south, go to Brooklyn, talk to their GM and what they did,
He can
and
tell you how to sell your soul.
he
But
can
at
do it.
this point, you would not be getting a James Harden. You would be getting, according to Dabo Sweeney, the Michael Jordan of football. Okay, so you got it. I don't know. I just think that Deshaun Watson can obviously change your culture, change your program. So I think you should try to get him if you can. All right, so we're going to jump ahead real fast. We're going to go through the playoffs. Okay, this is we're coming into divisional weekend here. We got through Super Wild Card weekend this past weekend. Now we're coming into divisional weekend. Okay, so we saw. I'm gonna just run through some games here. You give me your thoughts. The Browns absolutely, in my opinion, destroyed the Steelers when they got up 28-0. They took their foot off the gas and let them back in the game by playing prevent defense, but it wasn't close. The Steelers, um, they look like they need to completely hit the reset button. But now the Browns, for your prize for beating your divisional foe, sending them home, your prize is going to Arrowhead Stadium and playing the Chiefs. Here's the question to you, real fast. Do the Browns have a chance in this game?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I mean, if they play like they played, I hope not. Like, I want the Chiefs to win, and I've got them winning it all. But I think if the Browns play like they did against Pittsburgh, because Kansas City has shown this year they're not the Kansas City of last year putting up 50 points.
No, they look
Uh,
lackadaisical at
they
points.
do. I mean,
Yes.
they're a fourth quarter team this year. I mean,
Yep.
if you're a better out in Las Vegas, you're going, what are you doing, Kansas City?
Yeah, like
So yeah,
what's the point spread? Do I take the
yeah,
points? Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, do they have a chance? Yes. Do I think they're going to pull it off? Um, honestly, I don't think they will. I think it'll depend on that first quarter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if they get off
If
to
they
a
can
strong start,
get up 28-0 again, who
yeah,
knows?
yeah, yeah. But I think the Chiefs ultimately, I think they'll turn it on in the playoffs.
I think you're right. I think the Chiefs are going to win it, but I think they're going to keep it closer than it should be. I'll put it that way. But I think that by far the Chiefs are going to win that. Okay, so we saw the Ravens. We saw Lamar Jackson show some improvement, and the Ravens beat the Titans. And then we saw the Bills play one of the toughest games they've had all year, where they had to play the Colts. That was a really good game, back and forth. That was a fumble. I don't care what anybody says. That dude's knee was off the ground. The NBA gave them a gift to even be that close because that was a
PFL, yes,
fumble.
yes,
Okay,
yes. I
so
agree.
now we have
It goes back to the butt fumble that we had several years ago. Yeah.
still a great play. As a Patriots fan, still a fantastic thing. Uh,
I believe that was against my Oakland Raiders, just for the
no,
record.
no, you're talking about a different play. The butt fumble was
Yes.
where Mark Sanchez ran into his own guy. You're talking about the tuck rule. Also, as a Patriots fan, super excited about
Yes. The
that.
Raiders Patriots playoffs game several years ago in the snow, and
Yes.
they gave it, and the
He
Patriots
tucked
won
it.
it on
He
a
tucked it,
field.
Chris. He tucked it.
All right, Ravens Bills all the way.
Ravens, Bills. You're saying you're taking the Bills. I'm gonna stick with the Bills. I do think it's gonna be pretty tough though. I heard Nick Wright today on Fox Sport. He was on Colin Cowherd's show, and he flat out said that he would rather the Chiefs have to play the Bills in the conference championship than the Ravens, which shocked me. But he said the Ravens
Ravens match
scare.
up better defensively. Yeah,
Yeah,
defensively, yes.
that's what
And
he was talking about.
The Bills will have struggles. I mean, the Ravens
Oh my gosh.
are a tough defense, and so for Josh Allen, I'm a Josh Allen fan. I hope if he's on, it's going to be good.
Oh,
Ravens
he's gonna have to have
defense
the
is
game of his
tough,
life.
but also the Bills defense is going to have their hands full with Lamar Jackson. I mean, there's just no
Without
way around
question,
that.
because he's
Yep.
running really well. All right, so then we saw the Rams beat the Seahawks. It was like 30-20. So they beat him so well that
They fired the OC.
they fired Schottenheimer, their offensive coordinator. So now for their prize, they have to go play at Green Bay against the Packers, with Aaron Donald having rib issues with his rib cartilage, and then Jared Goff's thumb. Do you think the Rams have a chance at all?
I don't, not on offense. The reason being, but I do think the Packers are going to see a tough defense. They've got a great secondary, the Rams do,
Yeah.
and so Aaron Rodgers is going to have a tough game there. Yeah, yeah,
Why you look confused? It's Aaron Rodgers.
yeah. I was like, did we draft some other guy that didn't play the season? Supposed to play the
Jordan Love.
season?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's him. Yeah. Yeah,
um,
without question, Jalen
yeah,
Ramsey's
yeah.
having a
But I
very
think the
quiet.
Packers will. Yeah, I think the Packers will pull it off. I mean, because here you go. You ready for it? It's
Okay,
Aaron Rodgers, and he's having an MVP year.
yeah, that's true. If I could stand up right now, I'd show you the discount double check. But I think they are going to win that. So then we saw the Bucks walk away with the win against Washington, which it was closer than it probably should have been. And then we see the Saints destroy the Bears. So now we have the AARP game. Okay, so we have Breeze versus Brady. Originally, we both picked the Saints and Breeze winning this game. Are you sticking with that?
Yeah, I've still got the Saints because they are finally in the playoffs acting like the Saints. I had them all in fantasy beginning of the season. And I dropped them all because they weren't doing nothing
that
except for Kamara.
Alvin
But
Kamara was
yeah,
really good this year. Michael
yeah,
Thomas
yeah,
killed a lot of people.
yeah. So I still think the Saints pull it off the way they've been playing. They are hot right now. They're in New Orleans. I hope for Tom's
Well,
sake,
they don't have the
Bruce.
fans.
Yeah,
So
it don't matter. It
the
don't matter. You're still in New Orleans.
truth.
So yeah, but yeah. So I do think the Saints will pull it out.
I do think it will be the Saints still. Though Brady is probably he's had the best, as they refer to it, like the fourth quarter of the season that he's ever had. They're he's throwing really well. He's finally like in a rhythm with his guys. He's got AB playing like AB of old. But it's hard for me to bet against Breeze in this situation. He's at home. He's got all of his guys, and they got some young guys that are really starting to step up. So I think it will be. So we're saying we still think it's going to be the Chiefs and the Bills in the conference championship for the AFC, and we're thinking it's going to be the Packers Saints. So we've stuck with 1-2 on both sides. So look, once again, we've stuck with chalk on this, and that's kind of how we have the conference championship lining up. If we're right, awesome. If we're not, that's normal.
If there's an upset this week,
If there's an
who's
upset,
who's your upset?
if there's an upset, I think it would be Ravens Bills.
I would say Browns Chiefs.
Wow. You went for like the series. Like I was sitting there thinking Ravens Bills, it's only upset because of their seeding. I don't think it's upset necessarily based off of their roster, but what you're stating, Chiefs Browns, I mean, that's major upset. I mean,
what the Browns are playing. I mean, I was the one that picked the Browns to finish bottom of the barrel in their division.
Yeah, well, don't worry. I'm bringing that back up. Don't worry. I'm bringing that back up next time.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about who we picked to win what and how well we did. But yeah, no, wow, dude, the balls on that one. Good for you. Good for you, man. I'm shocked by that one because I just don't know if I can give him that much of a chance. I like barring a Mahomes injury, I can't see it, man.
Not even that. I just like we already talked about. I mean, the Browns are offensively looking good right now.
They're running game,
and it's the Chiefs. I mean, if they're lackadaisical at all, I don't. If the Browns, I don't know if the Chiefs will catch up.
Yeah, they got the Browns are getting some of their guys back from their COVID list, so hopefully, because I think they got like
they got their coach back this week too.
They got their coach back. Shout out to their special.
Of course, they might want to leave him in quarantine.
Yeah, exactly. You stay home and watch.
I'll be like, I love you, but for the sake of the playoffs, you out. Yeah. So.
Man, that was a lot. That was a lot of stuff we just covered right there. Well, look, guys, we hope that you have enjoyed the show. Chris, tell them what you'd like to say.
Man, God bless you. It's always a blessing to come on here and do this thing. We get to talk about sports. What a blessing.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys. Let us know if you have any thoughts or comments, and we appreciate our biggest fan, JJ, who listens to the show very faithfully. We appreciate it, buddy. And we'll see you guys next time.